Hey, welcome to Put Me In Coach podcast. I'm your host, Coach Thomas Tedder. Today I have a real special guest on with me today, my former boss and still a good friend of mine, and that's Coach Sean Pender. Sean has done some amazing stuff in his coaching career, and I'm very, very honored to have him on our show today. And Coach, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you today, and it's just a privilege to see you again. Always good seeing you, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh man, it's great, being here with you, Tedder. I'm flattered that you were able to put me on the show, and I just really look forward to communicating with you and having a good time to hear it. But I am, been coaching now for, 30 years, Tedder. It's been a long time now. This is my year 30 for me, and been a head coach since 2002. And, most of my career I spent down in South Georgia, and, obviously, had started at Brantley County, and, I was at Cordele for a year, and then went to Pierce and had an amazing run at Pierce. It was great. Then went over to Brunswick and had another great run at Brunswick. And then, family situation stuff happened, and I decided to look up in North Georgia to come up this way near my wife's family. And we came up and found a great home at North Hall High School. It's a phenomenal community, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to be there now. But I'm there at North Hall going into my 5th season now, and I'm blessed to be with be the husband to Dana Pender, my wife. She is awesome woman. And then I got 4 kids. Dana and I, we got together over 11 years ago. We have a blended family. Dalton Pender, who is 25 years old now, is my oldest, and he now lives up in Gainesville as well. And I got a grandbaby now, Arthur. He is up. Yeah, he's 5 months old, and Sadie is my next oldest. She's 21 now, Coach. And she was just a youngin' when we were over in. She's 21. She's going into her senior year, and she's over in Statesboro. So she's about to be done with school pretty soon. Peyton, she's 18, and she is now at Kennesaw Mountain going into her sophomore year. And my baby Morgan, she's 14 years old now. She's here with me at Hoover. She came to be Daddy's little girl for a little bit, and she's having a good time with us. And she starts high school this year, so it's a big moment for her as well. And she's doing awesome. Matter of fact, she's doing swimming and qualified for the all-state swimming, and we got state meets coming up. So I'm excited for Morgan and her high school career and her sports as well.
Man, that's awesome to hear, Coach. And, really familiar with your family, and just really good people, your kids as well, and had time to meet them at my time at Brunswick High School, and you've been blessed with a really good family. For those that don't know, me and Coach, we competed against each other as far as coaches. I remember my days in Savannah. And I think at the time you were at Pierce County, I think. And
yes,
we've had some good games, especially when I was at John. I remember I just talked about this the other podcast about 2 weeks ago. But I don't know if you remember that game. It was Johnson versus Pierce. You guys were at Memorial Stadium, and
I remember the overtime game.
A crunch game of like 8-6, and then we gave up a big play, and you guys up winning like 14-6. But it was a really good game. Really good game. And
it was great. Hey, you remember, because we won it in overtime, I remember. Don't remember the exact score, but you remember Jamar Lincoln was the quarterback that started that game, and he broke his thumb. And then we had this sophomore quarterback come in named Stetson Bennett in the second half. You remember that? and he got
Yeah.
a pretty much debut in that game there. And of course, you know what his career ended up like.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, and we ended up going neck and neck all the way to the end, and I think we won in overtime in that game. And how about the
Yeah.
other time we matched up against each other? Was when you were at
That was at
Jenkins.
Pierce. That was at Pierce. That's
And,
right.
and
Exactly.
that was at
Yeah.
Pierce, yes. And
Yeah.
that game was what 64-62, and
Yeah.
what
Like
triple
3
overtime.
overtimes. Like it was crazy.
Yes.
Great game.
And
But
then
it
we
was a
ended up getting
really good
together.
game, though. Huh?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I said
Yeah.
then
And
we ended
then,
up getting together and having some amazing years at Brunswick.
but then, Coach, there was the year before I came to Brunswick was when I had to stepped in as the interim head coach at New Hampstead, and
That's right.
we came down to Brunswick. And I'll never forget. Coach was like, "Yeah, man, why don't you come be my D coordinator?" I'm thinking, my coach, we haven't even played the game yet. Let's get through the game first, and then we can talk about being a coordinator for next year. But that was a good game too. I mean, I thought for a fact that we were definitely going to win that game, and I think we were winning like 21-14, and then somehow the Pirates came back. Coach Pender knew what plays to call, and we ended up losing that game. I want to say by 7 or only a few points, but I mean, it was a hell of a game, Coach. And I think you and I coaching again, it brought out the best in me. And I don't know if I brought out the best in you, but I know for a fact you definitely brought out the best in me as far as a coach.
Oh man, we had some good times, and yeah, absolutely. Not just as a coach. We as just human beings. I mean, I think during our time at Brunswick, we really grew together a lot, and in the coaching world and our brotherhood as well.
I agree. I agree. Well, Coach, I got a couple questions I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind, and we're going to talk about the first question. I said, basically, Coach, take us back to the beginning of your coaching career, and what inspired you to become a football coach, and who had the biggest influence on your coaching philosophy?
I mean, inspired me to be a football coach. I really think it was in my DNA from the very beginning. I've always loved sports, and I played as many sports as I possibly can. My father, he threw me in sports at a young age. I think I was 5 years old when I started playing football, and then soccer and baseball, and then later on I started running for an organization when I lived in South Florida called TAC, and I ran for them this summer. So I got really involved in track. So it was just sports all the time. My father threw me in it, and I embraced it. I loved it just so much. And then, of course, when I got a little bit older, my dad stopped coaching me. It was other coaches, and my college coaches really, really stand out. I was very, very fortunate when I went to Valdosta State to be at the time period when Hal Mummy was there, Mike Leach was there, Daniel Holgerson, a lot of really good coaches were there at that time period. And I really liked the way that they interacted with the players. I really liked the camaraderie and just the fact of wanting to give back in a certain way. I think, that inspiration of just wanting to be a part of something like that and being part of a team, that was awesome. And then also another thing that really helps with, just the inspiring to really be a coach is just the fact that it's an opportunity to give back to our youth. You know,
I agree.
what playing sports did for me, I want to be able to help pass that on to the next generation and leave a legacy for them as well.
I got you. Let me ask you a quick question, Coach. Was Hal Hummy he was the head coach and Leach was the coordinator, or was
Oh
he
yeah,
just the head
yeah.
coach?
Hal Mummy was the head coach, the founder of the air raid offense, the Godfather. They call him Godfather of the air raid offense. I got
So
a good
Mummy,
little thing.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was about to say,
I got a good little thing about the air raid
Mummy
offense
teached
as well.
Mummy teached Leach.
Yes,
You know?
they did it together. They got together, and Hal Mummy and Mike Leach. There's a book they have that talks about it a whole bunch. One of them is The Perfect Pass. Another one is Stretch to Cornfield, and just talking about the history of the air raid offense. But yeah, they were together. They combine, some philosophies to really, get that thing going. And then, and then Mike Leach was the offensive coordinator. He was my position coach my freshman year. And then he brought a guy in named Dana Hogerson that played for them. And, and Dana, he had a great career as well, coaching at the college level. But he became my position coach when Leach went to take over the offensive line. And so I was able to learn from some really great coaches. And they definitely inspired, especially Leach, man. Leach just really taught me how to think outside the box, and then Hal always believing in me and, giving me opportunities, even when I was 142-pound freshman. I actually gained a little bit of weight as I got a little older, but he believed in me back then and gave me an opportunity. And I'm very, very proud that I was able to be a part of that during that time period at Valdosta State.
That's awesome. And Valdosta has always been, as far as since I've been in Georgia, it's always been known as a perennial powerhouse. And, a lot of great coaches and players have gone through that system. And, I can only imagine what you've learned at Valdosta. And I'm sure that a lot of that is still being passed down to folks that are still on your staff right now. So, I definitely learned a lot from you being on the defensive side of the ball as far as how to try and defend the air raid offense. But, it's, at times it's very difficult to stop because, there's so many ways to get, your the great athletes the ball. So, that's one thing I learned about, under you as far as learning that style of offense.
Oh, yeah, it's get the ball to players in space and let them do the work.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, like when we were at Brunswick, we had some really good guys on offense. We had Kobe, Ree, who else?
Bean, Tyree. Oh, yes.
Yeah, we had some.
Yeah, Whitfield.
Go ahead.
Whitfield was another one, yeah. Just some really good ones.
Patrick Leggett.
Touchdown Terry.
Yeah, that's right.
Terry Mitchell.
That's right. So, it's a really good, I thought, the offense that you brought is really brought the success to Brunswick. You're the perfect coach at the right time for that area. But, Coach, every coach has a defining moment. Can you share a game or a season or an experience that completely changed the way that you coach now?
And thinking about this, I have two really, really ones I think are very important. And the first one happened in 2014. I was able to have the opportunity to go coach with Team USA. And when I was coaching with Team USA, we put together, we're about to go to Kuwait and play for it was the 19U team, and we're going to Kuwait to compete in the World Championships for football. And going there, we just was a collaboration of players from all over the place, Coach. We had a player from Anchorage, Alaska. We had kids from Compton, California, kids from Pennsylvania, from DC, from New Jersey, had kids from Miami, immigrant that came in from Africa that happened to live in Marietta, another immigrant that came in from Russia that was, I forgot what area, I think he was down living in South Florida as well. And we brought all these kids in to play in this 19U team. And when we first got, we all went to Shenandoah over there in Virginia to do our practice, and we had a practice there for a week. In the beginning of that practice, where everyone's just trying to get to know each other and stuff like that, the kids were practicing more like they were on an all-star team, and that's not what we were trying to be about. We were trying to be really as a one team where, the USA meant way more. That name on the front meant way more than the name in the back. And there was so things weren't going good in the beginning practice. And this defensive back, I can't remember his name, but if I had called up Mark Beach, he'd be able to tell me, but he was from Compton. And he asked Coach Aaron Brady, who was our head coach, at the end of practice, we're in a huddle, and he asked Coach if he could say something. And Coach Brady said, yeah, come on, go ahead and say what you got to say. He stood up in front of the team, and this is talking about a defining moment where me as a coach was able to learn something from a 19-year-old kid. He looked at one of our offensive linemen, and this offensive lineman we had looked like one of them corn-fed guys from Oklahoma. I think he was from either Oklahoma, Nebraska, or Iowa, somewhere around there,
Right.
just a Midwestern kid, offensive line. And the kid from Compton, he gets up and he looks at him, he points at him, and he goes, "I love you." And he just paused. He paused for a second. And then he did it again. "I love you.
Right.
I love you." He said it like 5 times. It just, and when he's saying, I'm getting chills, back there. And he goes, "You know why I love you?" He says, "Because that emblem on the side of your helmet, it was a USA emblem, because that emblem on the front of your jersey, he goes, you're my teammate, you're my brother, and I will do anything I got to do for you." And when he kind of said that, and then that was more like, we're more than a team. We're going to be like a family, type situation. And from that point on, we really learned something from that. That was just a defining moment about relationships, and how important that no matter what it is, no matter what background you have, no matter where you come from, we're here together and we have a common goal that we're trying to accomplish. So it doesn't matter the religion that you believe in. It doesn't matter the area that you come from, whether it's, from Anchorage, Alaska or South Beach, Miami. You're going to come together and we're going to play for each other. We're going to love each other no matter what it is. And we're going to play together like a family. And that team, we went on over to Kuwait. We were in some rough conditions, and we're the only 19U team to this day to win the gold medal for the United States in World Championship football. So that's something that was great. But that was a defining moment there. And then the next one, Coach, about all too well, is when we had to all come together. And this could be a whole nother podcast in 2020 and with the Brunswick situation, with the Ahmaud Arbery tragedy, and how we all had to come together as a staff and put differences aside. Now, everyone knows, but our staff was, but we had 14 people on the staff, and we had 7 white coaches, 7 black coaches, coaches from Chicago, Pennsylvania, coaches from right there in Brunswick, myself that came from Florida. We had people from all different walks of life there in that aspect. And we had to come together and we had to have a common goal to keep our team from separating when there was so much division going on in our community, how we needed to pull together. And, again, we had a long coaches meeting, and it was Brian Edwards that came up with a slogan that says, "We're all about the family," because we're talking about that. We got to be more than a team. We got to be a family. He came up with that slogan, and then Coach Vaughn, we started the Pirate Walk, where we all got together, we held hands, we joined as one unit, we went down and we went through. That year we were talking about Moses, and we brought faith into what we were trying to do and trying to accomplish. And from that moment on, I still do it today. I do the Trojan Walk, and I bring that and that unity. And when I first came to North Hall, I tried to say all about the family, but that was a Brunswick thing. That was unique to that group and what we were. So North Hall, we changed it to "In the North We Eat," which is on my shirt, and we'll get into that a little bit later, I'm sure, in this podcast. But that's just, you're talking about defining moments that changed the way you coached and changed the way you want to make sure the authenticity is in there, and you want to build relationships with the not just the players that you're trying to create, but with your community that you're involved with the coaches that you're involved with, that brotherhood. And that was, again, we can talk forever about that question, and I don't want to take up the whole entire podcast with that, but that's another situation that I would love for us all to get together and talk about that as well, because that 2020 experience and what we were able to do for our community, what we were able to do for our school, what we were able to do with that family was something that's going to be in my heart forever.
Yeah, that definitely was a special moment. Just watching how we all came together. I thought you did an awesome job as far as galvanizing our team to stay together And my thing is, when we do the right things, right will always follow you. And we ended up having a successful season that year. And I just goes to show that um, you know, there are differences in life, but we still have to find a way to come together and work together for one common goal. And I think you did a really good job, Coach, as far as bringing that team together during that tragic time during that time here in Brunswick. And it was just I don't know, just something I'll never forget. I promise you, I never will. And yes, we did have some tough conversations as coaches, and we learned a lot from each other. I think that's the biggest thing that stuck out to me is the fact that during that time, we as a staff learned a lot about the differences of how folks grew up and things of that nature. Because I know I shared some stuff about the time I got pulled over right in front of my darn house because, you know, my dad had bought a Cadillac, and here I am as a young black male, and you get pulled over, and it's like the cops asking me like, where do I live? And I'm like, I live right here. I mean, that's what it says on my license. So I mean, this is kind of, I'm sure there was, you probably learned a lot just from that because that just doesn't happen on the
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I remember one of the stories that Vaughn was telling me about, something we're talking about just when you're, getting your driver's license and how I would talk to my kids about what to do. And I'm more about talking about, following the law and doing what you're supposed to do. But I wasn't sitting there worried about telling, my children, hey, make sure when you
right.
get pulled over, you keep your hands on the
Your
steering
hands
wheel.
on the bull, yeah.
Don't do any sudden movements. Don't do any. Yeah, I never would think to say anything like that. When Vaughn was talking about how he was talking to his daughter about what to do and all that, if you get in a situation that floored me, I guess, in that aspect because I wasn't raised to think like that, but yet some people are, and that was a different cultural experience that I had no idea about how to deal with. So just as we were talking about all different things that we were talking about that day, that was one of the things that stood out in my mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely learned some stuff about each other, and that's one thing, and I'll never forget. I mean, just to me, at the end of the day, I look at football as building relationships, and one way to build those relationships is learning about folks that are different from you. And my thing is, again, like I said, you found a way to make us still compete and coach at a very high level. Coach, let me ask you this question, and we're going to continue on and talk about building culture because I mean, I think you're a great person that knows how to build a positive culture in coaching. But building culture is one of the hardest parts of coaching. What are your core values, and what are the core values that you expect every player in your program to embrace, both on and off the field?
Well, number one thing when we're talking about doing this, and we learn from everybody all the time. And as we're learning and we're trying to borrow ideas and stuff like that, the one thing I do think that you have to make sure you do is be authentic to who you are and be real. So I'm saying that because, like, one of the things that we did for, Brunswick, I think met what we needed to do there was all about the family, right? Well, the core values that we decided to do when I moved up here to North Hall and what we're doing right now is something, again, I borrowed it when I went to the AFCA. I learned about it, but then we defined it and made it our own. Was we talk about, we say in the North, on my shirt, it says, in the North, we eat, effort, attitude, toughness. And we define that in a certain way. And in doing that, there's also a mindset that goes with the core values that we're trying to do. And that mindset, I call it a championship mindset. no matter what it is that we're going to try to do in life, we're going to try to find ways to be successful in doing it. And I'm saying the words we. It's not I. This is the words we, because we talk about the type of core values that we want to generate. It's something that we have to do together in order for it to work. And when we talk about effort, attitude, toughness, when we talk about effort, like for North Hall, our effort has to be relentless. We have to continue to give it no matter how we feel, no matter what the condition is. Our effort that we are trying to get is to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And we owe it not just to ourselves, but we owe it to our family. We owe it to our teammates. We owe it to our community to give the best versions of ourselves in every aspect of what we're trying to do. If it's playing ping pong, we're going to give the best effort in ping pong. If it is in the classroom, we got to do the best effort we can there. On the playing field, it has to be relentless no matter what the situation is. And we define that, in that way. And when I tell my kids, what does each stand for? They'll say effort, attitude, toughness. I said, what type of effort? They're going to say relentless effort. When I say what type of attitude, they're going to say a positive attitude. They're going to say a championship mindset. They're going to say we're going to look for ways to succeed, and we are not going to accept failure. We make excuses to do, and they'll say instead of not to do. Have that type of deal no matter what adversity, no matter what you're facing, no matter what you're up against, there has got to be a way to succeed. Let's find it. Let's focus on solution and not worry about what the problem is. All of us are going to be faced with adversity. All of us have problems. All of us have walls in front of us. How do we get past those walls? And that's the attitude that we try to bring with our core values. And the next is toughness. And when we talk about toughness, Coach, we're not talking about just physical toughness. Yes, that has to be there. To play this game and do what we do, the life, you got to be physically tough to survive and go through it. But more importantly, that you also got to be mentally tough as well. Be a student of the game. Always be a learner. Always learn no matter who it is you're trying to learn. Like I learned from a 19-year-old kid in 2014 about how to coach a football team. That was huge. No matter what the opportunity is, make sure you're continuing to learn, be the student of the game, and always try to grow when it comes to that type of mental toughness. And the most important, Coach, is spiritual toughness. You can't let anybody break your spirit. We're at a time now where people get too sensitive about certain subjects or whatnot, and then say something that's going to make us, not have that, not have that grit about us, and we want to turn and pout or point fingers. And we got to get out. We got to be spiritually tough, and we got to know where our faith is. We want, I'm going to say it through Christian values, because that's the values that I hold dear. And you got to learn to believe in things that you might not see with your eyes, and you got to have certain type of faith. And when you have certain goals or certain aspirations that are in front of you, you got to have that faith, that sounding board to come back at you to say, hey, I am going to continue doing this. I'm going to continue this grind. God is not going to put anything on my plate that I cannot handle. And, he's going to get us there, right? When, God wanted to make David a king, he didn't just make him a king, he gave him Goliath. And he had to prove it, right? And it goes on and on. There's situations through the Bible where he's doing that over and over again. And that's where we got to have that spiritual toughness, and we got to stay true to our beliefs, no matter what the circumstance is.
I agree. And, my thing is, again, I like what you said about as far as, just having those core values. And those core values that you discussed can definitely help young people as far as, making the right decision. One thing I always tell kids that I've coached is, it's hard to do the right thing when nobody's looking. And the thing about it is, when you take time to teach them the core values of doing the right thing, good thing, if you do right will always follow you. And, I totally agree with what you said as far as those core values that you've instilled in your players. Let me ask you this, Coach. You've coached a lot of young men over the years. What separates the athletes who maximize their full potential from those who never quite get it? you had an opportunity to coach people like Stetson Bennett, and I'm gonna tell you right now, as a defensive coordinator, I hated going against Stetson. I really did, because when you think you got him, you don't, and then he's running outside the pocket and makes a terrific throw. I remember that time we were down there in Pierce. I thought we had this guy dead to rights for a sack. He just spins out and boom, touchdown. I'm like, I've done everything I can do, and the kids have done everything that they can do. But again, how do you maximize his potential, his full potential? And then I'm sure you got a player that that he has the potential, but he never quite got it. So how did you differentiate between that?
The number one thing that the word that comes to my mind, the very first thing that separates, the types of players we're talking about is you got to have grit. You got to have grit. You got to have moxie. Those players that, have the ability to stick with it no matter what is going on. A player like Stetson, we're trying to develop, and all kids, you're just trying to maximize their potential, right? As a coach, it's our job to sometimes get a player to do something he doesn't want to do in order for him to become what he wants to become. And doing that, you got to figure out how to channel into your players. So you got to get to know the players. You got to be able to build relationships with them to understand what buttons do I push to get them to where they need to be. We do things like I have things we do in the off season as well to try to prep us to get to when we are in certain situations to be able to succeed and move past it. We do a quarterback school with our quarterbacks to show them things. We do a leadership classes and stuff that we do. We're doing those in Brunswick with the whole team too. And just teaching them how to become, leaders and how they can be, because not just for your football team to maximize your potential there, but to maximize your potential as a human being. I mean, we're dealing with young men, so we want these young men to be, better fathers than what we are. We want them to be, better husbands than what we are. We want them to be better and more productive members of society than we are. We're pushing for the best for them. So, by doing that, we got to keep testing them. We got to keep pushing them, but we also always got to remember to tell them we love them. We love you, even when they make mistakes, even when they're not doing, so they understand, like, we might be pushing them, we might be grinding, and we might try to get them to do the things that they don't want to do, but they know that we love that we love them. They know that we really care for them. Then they're going to care what we know, and then what we are trying to instill in them, they will be receptive, and they'll bring it out, even if it doesn't seem so in that moment. They'll come out in the times when it really needs to come out. And I think that's one of the biggest things that separate the ones that don't quite get it from the ones that do.
So, I mean, just hearing you talk, it just sounds like one thing I always asked somebody that wanted to come on staff after you left was, are you a transactional coach or are you a transformational coach? And, I remember one person, he was like, Coach, I don't even know what that means. But listening to you, you're kind of in alignment with me, because to me, it's not about just the game. It's about teaching the entire player. And I think sometimes coaches do miss that. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely. Coaches miss it. We get caught up in our own egos too much and trying to win. But if we do what we're supposed to do as coaches for these young men, especially if you're in development, you're in a development game, you are a teacher. And as a teacher, you have an oath, as far as I'm concerned. There's something about you. You better teach these young men, because look at the influence we have on the people we coach. The influence is absolutely amazing, and it's a responsibility that we have to hold up to, and we have to embrace that responsibility and try to be the example for our young men, and not only just preach the stuff, but try to live it ourselves.
Amen, Coach.
I'm a transformational. I am a
Yeah,
transformation
exactly.
all the
And
way. We are in
to
alignment
me,
with that.
yeah, I mean that's the job. I mean, our job as coaches is to change and have some kind of impact on the lives of the players that we coach. I mean, that's our job. But I know, Coach. I mean, I feel like I'm with you. We could talk about this for the next week.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And I'll tell you this, Coach. You got my word. We'll probably have another segment with you and I back on this again. But we'll move on to our next question. Is high school football is about much more than wins and losses. It's about developing young men for life. What's one life lesson you hope every player carries with them along after they've played their final snap? What do you think is the most important?
To bring that attitude of how can we succeed?
Okay.
How can we succeed? Doesn't matter. No excuses. Whatever whatever we are faced with, and let's say, you look at hard times, right? We are all guaranteed some point somewhere along the line we're going to be faced with some sort of hard times. When we get in that hard time deal, how are we going to approach the problem? What's the mindset, right? The championship mindset. How are we going to find a solution to what it is? You're going to have problems in your marriage. Things are going to happen. Things bad are going to happen. How are we going to push through? How are we going to work together to get that common goal? There's going to be times when you have children down the line, and you're going to have moments of where they're starting to pull apart, especially them teenage years. And trust me, I had 3 daughters that have going through this with, but right? How do we handle those situations, and what do we do, and how can we learn from it? And how can we grow with those situations? And then also the thing about not ever giving up. It's so many people will get in a situation and forget it. This is not for me. I'm gonna go do something else. This is too hard. I want them to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, it doesn't matter what the
What they
adversity.
fail to realize is that life in itself is hard. And my thing is, you're
Right,
just not going to give up on that. I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
right. So how we can succeed is definitely what I would say is what I really want them to be able to take away from them when they leave a program that I was in charge of.
I got you. And Coach, let me ask you, I mean, do you think this is a kind of off subject, but I just want to get your opinion on this. Are kids softer now than they how I know, guess you and I, but I can't even compare that. But I just feel like they're not as tough as they used to be. How do you feel about that?
And definitely in some aspects, I think that's a society issue, a society problem. I think where the standard, of how we were able to raise children at one time compared to what we're raising now, I think it's different, and it does have a perception of kids just not being able to have the same. I want to say more than saying that they're softer is they are more. They're not as emotionally mature yet. I think, from our time period, they're not able to handle the grind, as much. There's so many easy way outs. And a lot of times we as society have allowed our children to take these easy way outs instead of really hold them to the fire and push it. Because, one thing that we've noticed are when we have the support of the parents, of the kids in coaching, and they really believe in what we're doing, and the kids are believing in what we're doing, we can push and get out of them what we need to get out of them to help them be successful. So it's there. It's just being able to have that trust factor, right? And so the outside perceptive is, as a whole, our society has become a lot more soft than it needs to be. But hopefully we can get more people out there that have the type of attitude that that we're talking about to really cultivate these young students and get them to be able to, take the heat of that pressure a little bit more.
I got you. Thank you for that, Coach. Let me ask you this, Coach. If a young coach or aspiring leader asked you for one piece of advice to build a successful program and earn the trust of their players, what would you tell them?
One, you can never stop learning.
I agree.
You got to learn from everybody. Never stop learning. Never think you know enough. Always be able to listen to other people talk.
Yeah.
Don't just sit there and try to get them to just wait for them to stop talking so you can talk and give your advice. But listen to what they have to say. And when it comes to that, and then the next part of your question, be authentic. Don't try to be somebody else. It's okay to learn from somebody and have that person inspire you, but don't try to be, for example, Tony Robbins, right? I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I don't want to be Mike Leach, but I want what they have done and what I have learned from these individuals. I want to be able to put in my own thoughts and my own words and be authentic, because to get the players to trust you, kids know fake. They know if you're trying to be somebody else. They'll see right through that, and you'll lose them. So you got to be true to your personality as you are trying to cultivate knowledge to a young individual student.
I heard that, Coach. Great point. And Coach, of course, you already know the name of this show is Put Me In Coach Podcast. So I have to ask you this question: What would be your Put Me In Coach moment, either as a player or as a coach?
So as a player, and I shared this with you once before, I just remember my freshman year, we were playing against Fort Valley, and I was on the sideline again. Remember, I just alluded my freshman year, I was 5'7", 142 pounds, right? Coach Mummy said one time in an article he should have been put in jail for child abuse for playing me at a college level. But we were over and I was on the sideline and waiting for my name to be called or my number to be called. And back then the student body they would heckle you, and they were right behind the Fort Valley student body was right behind the bench, and they were looking at me, and they're like, I wore number 25, so they're like, "Hey, 25, will you stand up?" So they were doing that, and I'm kind of laughing at it, but at the same time, it's really irking me because I'm sitting on the sideline and couldn't really do nothing about it. And next thing you know, they throw me in the game. I got put in the game, and we ran a play. It was ace flip 92 PCP H wheel, and I was playing the H, and I had to run the wheel in that concept. And sure enough, the PCP, the post corner post, as he ran that, blew the top up the coverage. The safety went with him. Corner went with the mesh with the X coming down. So I ran like a shoot wheel combination, and a linebacker had to run with me, and he couldn't do it. Coach Hatcher, or Chris Hatcher, he was our quarterback at that time. He threw the wheel route. I saw it coming, and I was thinking to myself, it was about time. Caught that ball and was able to score my first collegiate touchdown. And that was my put me in moment as a player. That was in 1992. Still excited about it. Can remember it like it was yesterday. And I get to the sideline, and the coach was it was Coach Preston. It was one of our coaches. Like, "Man, I bet you were nervous." I said, "No, I was thinking to myself, it was about dang time that they threw me the ball," and I was happy. And I got to go to the sideline, and my whole offensive line was over there yelling back at the student body, saying, "He stood up now, didn't he?" So that was a great moment during that time period as a player, and then of course as a coach, put me in. Again, going back to the World Championships over in Kuwait when we beat Canada for the championship, and just being able to be part of that experience. And like we go back and we relive that. Like every year, a lot of us coaches will get together on a text that we're on that group, and we'll either get together at the AFCA convention, or we'll talk about it in a text group, or what, and we just relive that time period. So that's another time winning that golden medal and getting that world championship ring was huge. That was another put me in moment.
Nice. Coach,
for sure.
How you guys looking going into this year?
Well, we're a young team, and I'm very excited about the group of young men we are able to coach this year, because their effort level is phenomenal. Their commitment level is fantastic. Our kids want to get better. They're working hard. Now we're replacing 27 seniors, 11 starters that started on defense, the entire offensive line. We only have 2 starters that are coming back on the offensive side of the ball. And it is a situation where I am excited about our team. I think we're going to do well. I think we're going to struggle at times, but our core values are in place. Our culture is established. And I think with that winning attitude that we have, I think we're going to overcome adversity, and I'm very excited for this year.
Coach, I want to say thank you again for taking the time to sit down with me and get on an episode with me on Put Me In Coach podcast. I do appreciate it. I wish you nothing but the best. To my audience, I wanted to say thank you. Make sure you tune in, and make sure you share and like and repost with those that know Coach Pender. And I just want to say thank you, Coach, and we look forward to our next guest that'll be up in 2 weeks. Until the next time, you guys be safe. Peace.
Yes. Love you, man. Thank you.